Hi, this is DeCODE, a show where we talk about technology and algorithms. I'm Ghana, and this is Alex. Hi, Alex.
Hi, Ghana.
I'm a university professor, and I'm also a behavioral data scientist. So I combine behavioral science and data science algorithms in my work. Alex, what do you do?
I'm an engineer. I specialize in human factors in engineering.
Great. So today we are going to discuss a really cool algorithm that is called ChatGPT. I'm sure that all of you guys have used it, or at least tried to use it with different success. So the first rubric of our show is Algorithmology. So Algorithmology is a rubric where we describe algorithm in our own words. So it's not really serious. So how would you describe ChatGPT in your own words?
Well, I think ChatGPT is the latest shortcut for many people who try to do their work faster. And there's a whole following around it, almost like a new religion. And it's getting really, really popular. I'm really curious to see where it's going.
So is it like a brain dump?
It's about that. So people rely on that as a quick shortcut for relatively good results on the surface.
Yeah, so to me it's like a Monopoly game. So when I explain this to students, it's essentially like a strategic game where you have basically a set number of variables that are absolutely static, but then when you play it, you can come up with different outcomes.
Mm-hmm.
So that's what it is to me. And naturally, you have all tried it, and it was released for the first time in November 2022. But by this time, we already have version 4, ChatGPT 4, and it's not really free, right? I mean, you have to pay for ChatGPT.
There is a subscription for premium, yes.
So there is a subscription, and so I mean, if you want to use obviously the previous version, it's free, and for the current version, I think you have to actually chip in. At least to use it to the full extent. Now we are talking about deep dive. So that's the next rubric, deep dive, where we discuss an algorithm in more depth. So today we're talking about ChatGPT. So ChatGPT is normally described as generative AI. But there are a lot of discussions about whether that's AI at all, because for AI you need to have kind of a constant loop in terms of feedback loop, right? And a lot of people argue that it's not really AI because it doesn't take live information from the web, but it does react to what you are writing. So what's your take on it? So what is it? What is ChatGPT?
Well, I wouldn't call it AI. It's definitely based on machine learning. It uses a very, very big library.
Yeah, it's a 175 parameters.
Yes.
Billion, so sorry, 175 billion
Yep.
parameters. So that's why it's describing the human speech so well. And it's trained on huge data set. Right?
Yeah, but essentially all it does is association. It looks at history of the latest words that appeared before a certain keyword, and then predicts what's the most likely word that comes next.
Yeah, so in an essence, it's not different in any way different from the usual natural language processing algorithms that do association. The only big difference is the number of parameters. It's really exceeding any of the previous existing algorithms in terms of number of parameters, and that's why it gives you all these different bits that you can that you can obtain when you're using ChatGPT. So do you use ChatGPT yourself?
Yes, I do. Actually, I use it very often to get an initial draft, first structure for anything that is, let's say, low intellectual effort and requires a very formal structure, like job ads, for example, job description, anything related to listings, for example, for eBay or for any type of marketplace. It does it really well because it has access to a lot of typical structures from the web, and saves me a lot of time in that way. Obviously, it needs to be often corrected because there are many things that are factually incorrect when you have a first result from ChatGPT. They might be correct by association, but they're not factually correct to the specifics of what I'm doing. Still, it gives me a really good structure to work with, and that saves me a lot of time.
Yeah, brilliant. So I did a little bit of a quiz before today's episode. Just asked a bunch of friends like how they're using the algorithm. So basically, it's everything from passing training at work. So I had some friends who actually used it to pass some training that they knew that they were not really good, good with at work, and to actually writing something. I'm actually amazed that some people are writing academic papers using ChatGPT. I don't know how people do it, because for what I do, I know that I definitely cannot write a paper using ChatGPT. But I agree with you that for structure is actually very good. So if you want to organize your thoughts and put everything in a certain format, then ChatGPT does it really well. So as the first very rough idea. Some people use it for ideation. Or I just talked to a friend on Friday who told me, well, he uses it to sort of have a brainstorm of ideas, and then he tries to develop these ideas in a document. So it's used for various purposes. What's your take on all these spin-offs of ChatGPT that appeared on Map GPT, like all these things? Like I heard that there is now Drive GPT, which is essentially like Google Maps that helps you sort of program self-driving cars. And there are many dozens, I think, of them right now, right? So it's actually a lot. So and a lot of people are concerned about it. So what's your take on this? Are these tools useful? Like should we be using them, or is it all just initial hype and it will kind of die down as we go along?
Well, I think we can cover a lot of ground by using association cognitively. In day-to-day, we rely on associative thinking very often. So if we overlay the logic of ChatGPT, its ability to find associations with certain applications, specific applications, there's a lot that can be done. It will sure fail when it comes to specifics of some more sophisticated situations, but for anything that would rely on, let's say, large-scale meta-analysis, the most common thing to do or the most popular thing to do, I think ChatGPT can be really, really effective at suggesting and creating suggestions, and also at guiding people towards the most common or the most popular, and that it will work really well for that. When it will fail is whenever there is something new, essentially. Whenever we have something that hasn't happened before, or something that has not been observed very frequently before. Imagine you want ChatGPT to give you something that no one else has heard before. Give me, for example, a recommendation for a place that people don't generally go to. And all it will do in that case is tell you potentially known restricted places. And it's just how it thinks.
Yeah, but it does this drug discovery, right? So it kind of tries to imagine new pharmaceutical products, and so I guess well, you're right in terms of like it just works with known associations. So if it knows that certain ingredients in a drug work together, it can kind of develop new drug by adding components that it knows drugs can contain. But if we discover a new substance that should go into pharmaceutical product, then ChatGPT wouldn't know about it and wouldn't be able to add it to the mix.
Yeah, but there is an interesting angle here, because a lot of research in the medical field is done by using systematic review, and this is, I think, where ChatGPT could be extremely interesting for research purposes, because any type of meta-analysis summarizing very, very large amounts of systematic structures, and by systematic structures we can look at randomized control trials, systematic structures. If we feed enough randomized control trials in pharma into a ChatGPT type algorithm, we can get really high quality meta-analysis done that has the minimum amount of bias in it, because that's what essentially we want from a meta-analysis. We want to be able to summarize the vast amount of randomized control trials into its essence and look at specifics. For example, what type of drug combination leads to a certain outcome. And this is what ChatGPT is designed for. It will do it better than people, and we often expect clinicians to actually do meta-analysis, large-scale meta-analysis for the field. This is where the algorithm can really excel, and I think it has an upper hand because it doesn't get tired.
Yeah, so this is great. So basically, what we figured out from this deep dive is that the ChatGPT is really good with associations, and it can obviously produce interesting ideas based on existing data. But everything that includes new data. I mean, we all know like sometimes it's really annoying because stuff happened in 2022, and it only sort of uses data after the end of 2021. I'm sure, though, that it will change and it will probably take information from the internet. But it does some useful things, but also you have to be wary of the issues with fact checking. So you really need to fact check it. Not only does it do this fantastic thing that it can invent facts, but it also can produce sort of non-existing literature. For example, I often give my students examples with articles that ChatGPT just invents. And not only does it invent an article where it was published, but it produces quotes that do not actually exist. And you really need to be very, very careful. So don't like quote directly, because there were some very, very famous bloopers when, remember this Colombian judge that used the ChatGPT for sort of producing decision in court, which is absolutely crazy. Next rubric is breakthrough. Usually in this rubric we discuss existing papers. So kind of we go even deeper and look at a paper that uses a particular algorithm. And it would be great to actually discuss the paper that uses ChatGPT. So the original paper. But if you look for original papers, actually does not exist. The company that produced ChatGPT, OpenAI, they keep it very secret, like top secret what it is. I mean, obviously, we all made educated guesses about how it works, but essentially the problem is that we don't actually know what it is trained on, how exactly it is trained, and there are many questions. And considering how many people are using it, a lot of people are concerned with sort of the lack of transparency here. So is this a concern for you? Do you think that it should be open?
Well, if people take it for what it is, I think we shouldn't be really so worried. Because as long as we don't take it too seriously, as long as we don't use it to make really important decisions.
Judgment decisions in courts, we shouldn't do that.
Yeah, we should rely on ChatGPT as a tool. It needs to be tested in practice, and if it gives useful results, then wonderful. We shouldn't just be concerned for concern's sake. Let's try it out and see what comes out of it, and be critical about it, of course, but...
Yeah, but there were these calls from people who originally invested into ChatGPT to sort of stop the development of other products. So what's your take on this? Is it, are they overreacting, or is it an actual concern that, or should we really stop and look at what we've done? Because like from my perspective, you cannot really stop progress, like it's impossible. So once it's already, it started, sort of we need to just work through it, and the regulation will always be one step behind whatever you do. And it's obvious that we've lived already through. This is already the fourth industrial revolution we're living through. And yes, will it affect people? Yes, it will affect people. It will affect some jobs, but ultimately, we need to live through this process. It's impossible to stop it. So, what's your take on this call? That let's just stop and understand the effects of ChatGPT.
Well, it's I think quite naive to think that we can stop it.
Someone in the garage will still be doing some programming.
No, I mean, things will continue. I think people will continue developing new ideas. They will continue building on the existing platform. I don't think it can be stopped. We should definitely regulate it, and we should definitely explore it and see how we can, let's say, ensure that people don't get hurt using it. And as long as that happens, it should be okay. I mean, we had this situation many times in the past, similar, when technology came along, and people didn't know how to, let's say, respond to it. And this is quite disruptive, and we can sure have to adapt to it. And like you said, regulation will be one step behind, but soon enough it will catch up. We have very interesting developments on the visual side. For example, artists are now arguing regarding who owns the copyright for AI-generated art. We have musicians arguing for who owns the copyright for music generated with AI. But there are many tools in both the visual and audio world that rely on technology that is AI-based, and it's machine learning-based. So there are very few examples of AI-based, to be honest, many more on machine learning-based, because anything that is adaptive will be machine learning. And at this stage, stopping it is quite pointless because, like you said, someone in some garage will be always doing something new.
Yeah. Yeah, definitely. But again, obviously, we're here proponents of the ethical use of artificial intelligence, and obviously, it's very important to make algorithms explainable. However, it's very difficult to explain an algorithm to a human being if you don't know how it was trained, right? So, yeah, I personally think that information should be transparent. I completely appreciate why OpenAI, being a kind of a smaller player than, say, Google, who was talking about generative AI for many years, but ultimately failed to produce a product.
They keep promising.
Yeah, that's it. And but essentially, I think that knowledge should be available to everyone, and it is an important part in the human progress. And with understanding, we can better defend ourselves against the risks that it contains. But how can you possibly defend if you don't know what's inside, right? Yeah. So that's essentially one of the issues.
In essence, I think we can just, like as a one-liner, don't trust everything that ChatGPT produces.
Exactly.
And what it produces is not necessarily truth.
Yeah, don't take it seriously. It's like going and talking to your neighbor. Like they might have a lot of world experience, but not everything that they say can be trusted. Yeah,
we apply the same criteria in our day-to-day life anyway. So just because it's produced by a machine doesn't make it any more trustworthy than any gossip you hear or any rumor you hear. So just be critical about it, think whether it's probable or likely, and always do your own research, verify, and fact check everything you get from it. But if you know those shortcomings, you can really make great use of it. So go ahead and try it. It's great.
The next part is my favorite. It's called Mixology, and it's actually just looking at any recent videos that we see on social media with technology. And we're just going to be sort of looking at it and discussing it. And essentially there is a lot of fake stuff online. I'm not sure whether we're gonna watch anything fake that doesn't exist today, but we will watch some of the videos, and we will actually have a little bit of discussion around the latest trends in technology. So let's go to our first video. Well, this is a video of animal-like machines, which is kind of robotic machines, and you can see that there are quite a few cool things like spiders or dog-based algorithms, a scorpion-based algorithm. Machine, sorry, that's a robot, not necessarily the algorithm. The algorithm is probably just machine learning algorithm. There is one that is based on jellyfish. There is a very kind of typical Boston Robotics type of dog or horse that we observe. And this one looks like an octopus. Yeah, so all sorts of machines that try to sort of replicate nature and used for different things. This one was actually quite funny because I think it
didn't work so well.
Yeah, it didn't work very well. Yeah, so what's your take on this? I didn't understand the butterfly. I mean, I guess it's just a drone, but they put wings on it. So I'm not quite sure about the use of it.
No, maybe. But wing propulsion is really complex. So getting that bat to fly like a bird, it's complex. So complex. I think it's a great fit to achieve that type of motion and propulsion. Mm-hmm. Not sure how it fares against, let's say, more common propulsion techniques like a propeller or jet propulsion, but still, it's a great option. And if we can make it work well, it might actually be very efficient. So we might reach better efficiency. Mm. So yeah, I'm all for new ways to create motion inspired by animals.
Yeah, quite like the spider. So I imagine that could be quite useful, especially, so my dad used to do this. So his job was to rescue people from, different, mm-hmm. in case of different emergencies. And we recently had quite a few people who suffered from, I don't know, like there is a building, a fallen building, or there are various sort of emergencies in mines. So I guess this kind of small algorithms mm-hmm. can go find. So small robots can go and find somebody in the cave, for example, maybe deliver some food. I didn't quite understand what would you need the scorpion for, because it's got all this tail thing. Maybe you could put a light in there. Maybe it can just lit up the environment or something.
Well, scorpion will have great mobility because of the type of legs it has, and it will have a very agile and let's say capable tail that doesn't need to sting, obviously, but it can be used as an arm for operation.
It better doesn't sting, I was gonna say.
Yeah, hopefully it doesn't. But it's a great way to have an arm on legs, and that can be used for all sorts of applications, let's say ordnance disposal, any type of dangerous work. Having an arm on legs that has great mobility is wonderful. So why not?
Yeah, I mean, I don't think we have to argue a lot about dogs and horses, because these are used quite a lot in different applications, and Boston Robotics and Boston Mechanics have done quite a lot of things on this. And, they're already being used, for example, in agriculture, in different sectors. I guess the military would mm-hmm. use them as well, for various defense operations. I'm just wondering about the jellyfish, like what was all that mm-hmm. for? I mean, I can't even imagine the use case for it, but maybe it's to retrieve something from the seashore. Or
well, the jellyfish is extremely efficient energy-wise, and it can move underwater, which is also quite complex. And it uses its whole body to move, so it can be really interesting to have that type of structure. at the
So
moment.
it could be used for like finding objects, I guess, right? So if we
Yes, or like low power devices that need to be in the water for a very long time. So jellyfish generally don't have a lot of energy to work with, so they need to be extremely efficient. So that type of body structure can be really efficient in water if you need something to be relatively small or big and then be able to handle the, let's say, the environment.
All right, so we're ready to go to the next video, I guess. So the next one, which one are we going to watch? So I find this robot extremely funny. It looks like a bug, and I think the only thing I know about it is that it works on alcohol as a fuel. As a fuel, yeah. So yeah, I mean, it doesn't seem to be hugely effective. So it doesn't sort of move very quick. But I guess it can carry something on it. So I'm not quite sure again about the use. Maybe you can have a listening device on it or something. Maybe for maybe if you are Agent 007 or something, it could be quite useful. So what did you think about it?
Well, honestly, I struggle to see its direct application given my area, but
do you think it's even real? I mean, it looks real. I'm not sure whether that's a fake.
well, it looks real, yeah, and I would assume it's one of those many prototypes that has been done because we want to see if we can make it move with
Yeah, for the heck of it.
alcohol and almost no mechanical parts as far as I can see. Basically has a body that is a container of alcohol, I guess, and it moves. So yeah,
Well,
great engineering.
Yeah, it cannot really carry anything, I don't think.
Oh, this is
Alright.
quite cool. Yeah.
So this is an actual fashion show by Coperni. I don't know what those designers. There are two designers there, and that's basically a robot used in a fashion show, which is that's a horse, right? That's not a dog. It's slightly.
I think it's supposed to recreate a lamp.
Oh, really? Okay.
Yeah, it's supposed to mean, I think, to be a lamp in this context.
Yep. Yeah. So what's your take on it? I mean, I just think that it's really like I think you can do anything you like in a fashion show in principle because as an artist you shouldn't have any restrictions. But it did look weird. I mean, I don't understand what value it contributes to the show itself. But I guess, I mean, if they just wanted to sort of demonstrate that we are now coexisting with robots, like as an artistic gesture, yes. But as a functional gesture, I don't think anybody will be walking with a robot behind them. And in real life, I think it's probably not very real world-ish.
Well, because it's a fashion show, I don't really have any criteria to judge it by. It looks odd, and I'm not sure if it's the most elegant fashion show I've seen, but for sure it's interesting. It's original. So if the objective was to be original, yeah, for sure.
Yeah, I think they probably would have been better off using those spiders that we've seen in the first. When they had a bunch of them in the room, remember? And like, yeah, if they just walk around or something like this.
Yeah, that would be creepy.
That would be creepy, and it would look good because like you could have models walking around, and then the spiders walking in a different direction or something like this, and then it's sort of makes a nice artistic sort of show. Yeah. All right, well, that concludes our today's episode. Thank you so much for being with us, and let us know if you liked it. We want to know whether it worked or didn't work, or what worked and what didn't work for you. And we hope to see you next time.